Good afternoon or good evening, radio fans. Big Al here on this Wednesday, July 23rd, 2025, and welcome into a look at the current radio ratings from major markets from across the country. And today we'll be looking at the June 2025 ratings from the three largest markets in the country: New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. What's up, Chad? How you doing? And off we go, starting off with the New York radio market. And according to RadioOnline.com, these ratings are, of course, taken by Nielsen. New York's market leader, which is 106.7 Light FM WLTW, kind of slipped in the June ratings down to a 7.5, but still more than enough to lead the New York market by more than a point than their second place challenger, which is La Mega 97.9 WSKQ, which plays Spanish Tropical. They went up from a 5.8 to a 6.2. And then right behind them is 1010 Wins and 92.3 WINS AM and FM, which is an all news simulcast. They went up a bit to a 6.1, finishing third for the month. At number 4 is Z100 WHTZ, dropping a couple down to a 5.4, but still good for fourth place. And then WCBS FM, or 101 CBS FM, which is a classic hits station from Odyssey, rounds out the top 5 with a 5.3, and that's down from a 5.6 in May. Alright, we have a tie for 6th place with 107.5 WBLS, which is an urban adult contemporary station, and New York Public Radio's 93.9 WNYC FM, both finishing with a 4.9. Now, WBLS slipped from a 5.0 in the May ratings, while WNYC jumped up from a 4.3 to a 4.9 to force this 6th place tie. What's up, Anna? How you doing? In 8th place is iHeartRadio's Q1043 WAXQ, which plays classic rock, slipping down to a 4.8. Now, this is the New York Jets flagship station. In 9th place is Red Apple Media's news and conservative talker 77 WABC, jumping up from a 3.8 to a 4.3. And then Odyssey's new 102.7 WNEW FM, which plays hot adult contemporary, they round out the top 10, slipping from a 3.9 to a 3.8. Just outside the top 10, you have iHeartRadio's 103.5 KTU, or WKTU, which is like a urban hot AC, if you will. They remain steady at a 3.3. That puts them in 11th place for the month of June. And then both hip-hop stations are right next to each other in the ratings. Media Cole's Hot 97 WQHT finishes the month in 12th place with a 2.9, while their competitor iHeartRadio's Power 105.1 WWPR FM finished with a 2.7. Both were at a 2.8 in May. And Hot 97 moved up while Power 105.1 moved down. All right, then we have a tie for 14th place with All Sports Station 66 and 101.9 The Fan, which is WFAN AM and FM, logging a 2.6, and this is the New York Giants and New York Yankees flagship station. They tie for 14th with Spanish Broadcasting System's 93.1 WPAT, also at a 2.6. Next up is Univision's Spanish hit station, X96.3 or X96.3, which is WXNY. They came in with a 2.2, and they're up half a point from May from 1.7. All right, next up, there's a tie with a pair of non-commercial stations. Contemporary Christian station 95.5 K-Love WPLJ from EMF ties New York Public Radio's classical 105.9 WQXR at a 1.7. And right below them is MS Radio's WEPN FM or Exitosa 98.7. That's 98.7. They come in with a 1.6. And then there's another tie between iHeartRadio's News Talker 710 WOR and Odyssey's classic hip hop station 94.7 The Block WXBK, both with a 1.5. The Block actually lost a little bit this month, so did WOR. And then you have the stream of The Fan, WFAN AM and FM at a 0.9. New Jersey 101.5 WKXW, which is a news talk station. They're also at a 0.9. Also, the online stream of Mega 97.9 WSKQ also finished with a 0.9 share of the New York market. Country station WKMK finished with a 0.8. Beasley Broadcast Group's WMGQ-FM, which plays adult contemporary, also had a 0.8. Hey, Robert from Hobbyman ZXC's in the house. How you doing, my man? Alright, what else? WFUV, which is a non-commercial AAA station from Fordham University, had a 0.7. Then WHUD had a 0.7. That plays adult contemporary. Newark Public Radio's jazz station, WBGO, finished with a 0.6. And then you have WARWFM, which I think is Air One. They had a 0.4. Tying the online stream of WINS. Bloomberg 1130 WBBR had a 0.3. That ties them with a bunch of stations, including Fairleigh Dickinson University's WFDU-FM, Hot AC station WJLK from Town Square Media, the FM simulcast of 77 WABC, which is heard on Long Island at WLIR 107.1, Hope Media Group's Spanish Christian station WNVU, and AAA station WXPK. I think that's 107.1 The Peak. That airs, I think, to to northern portions of the New York market, all of those stations had a 0.3. And there's really not much here to talk about outside of, say, the Black Information Network on WWRL 1600 did not register this month, although their programming is also heard on WWPR's third digital subchannel. Alright, so that is the New York market. And those ratings were posted on July 14th, as were the ratings for Los Angeles. Alright, and leading the way in the City of Angels is K-Earth 101 KRTH, which is a classic hit station from Odyssey, with a 6.6 share of the market, and that's up from 5.9 in May. 1 point behind in second place is iHeartRadio's Coast 103.5 KOST with a 5.6, and that's actually down from a 5.9. So they were tied with K-Earth 101 in the May ratings. Oh, you have friends in New York, they talk about radio too? I'm gonna have to look for them on YouTube, see what they're all about. Alright, in third place is Coast 103.5's sister station, 102.7 KISS FM, KIIS, with a 4.7, and that's up from 4.5. I hear 100.9 The Valley is going to be a webcaster in the future as they go digital sometime, or something new will come to 100.9 in the future. That kind of reminds me of WKLQ back in Grand Rapids. Before 2004, the station was at 94.5, but then they decided to flip the station to country music. They would move WKLQ to 107.3, and it didn't do all that well. And then they flipped 107.3 to a sports talker. And KLQ went online only for a few years before they completely shut it down. So, yep, I know what you're saying. Alright, another iHeartRadio station came in a three-way tie for fourth place, as 104.3 My FM, or KBIG, which is a hot AC station, ties a pair of Odyssey stations. They're all news 1070 KNX and 97.1, known as KNX News 97.1, ties its sister station 94.7 The Wave KTWV at a 4.5. And right below them is legendary rock station 95.5 KLOS with a 4.4, and that puts them in 7th place. Then there's a tie for 8th place between Odyssey's 93.1 Jack FM, KCBS FM, and iHeartRadio talk station 640 KFI, both with a 3.8. KFI's ratings remained steady from May, while KCBS took a little bit of a dip. 107.5 K-Love, KLVE FM from Univision Radio took a big drop in June, falling from a 4.2 to a 3.4. And that just puts them outside of the top 10. Right below them is iHeartRadio alternative station Alt 98.7 KYSR with a 3.2, and that's up from 3.0. And this is the Los Angeles Chargers flagship station. Odyssey's alternative rocker 106.7 K-Rock KROQ jumped from a 2.6 to a 3.1. Then classical music station 91.5 KUSC, owned by the University of Southern California, slips to a 3.0. Next is Spanish Broadcasting Systems 97.9 La Raza, KLAX FM, dropping a point down from 3.9 to 2.9. Yeah, that hurts. Andy's randomness. Alright, I'll look for them. Pasadena Area Community College's KPCC, which is one of two NPR radio stations in Los Angeles, clocked in at a 2.6, and that's down from 3.0. LA 101.9 KSCA, which is a regional Mexican station, jumped from 2.4 to 2.6. That's followed by Mount Wilson FM Broadcasters country station, Go Country 105 KKGO, with a 2.5, and that's up from 2.3. The other NPR news station in Los Angeles is KCRW from Santa Monica Community College. They jumped a half a point from 1.7 to 2.2. And then KXOL, that's 96.3. That's a Spanish hit station from SBS. They remain steady at a 2.0. California State University's KJAZ or KKJZ slipped from a 2.1 to a 1.8. That ties them with Power 106 KPWR and Univision's KRCD, which is 103.9 and 98.3. They're down from a 2.0 to a 1.8. Meanwhile, Power 106 ratings have gone up now for the second month in a row, because they were down to 1.3 in April. Then they went to 1.6. Now they're at 1.8. 100.3 K-Love KKLQ is down from 1.9 to 1.7. And then Cali 93.9 KLLI is also down from a 1.9 to a 1.7. And then Power 106's competitor, Real 92.3 KRRL, is also down to a 1.7. They were at 1.8 back in May. Then you've got Radio Free 102.3 KJLH, steady at a 1.6. Now, this is the station that Stevie Wonder owns. Last night before I went to bed, I listened to an air check of Mix 95.5 out of Reno from 2002. It was great. It has a similar logo to Mix 94.7 in Austin. All right. Below the tied with KJLH is AM 570 KLAC, which is owned by both iHeartRadio and the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is, of course, the Dodgers flagship. They also had a 1.6. That's also up from 1.5. Then you've got the Spanish hit simulcast of KLYY 97.5 and 107.1, known as Jose. They have like 3 different stations in the LA area on 107.1 that makes up this simulcast. They inched up to a 1.5. KBUE, which is also another Spanish multicast station. This is the 105.5 frequency out of Long Beach. They're at a 1.4 for a third straight month. Programming is also heard on 94.3 in Orange County and in the Northridge area. Power 106's sister station, 93.5 K-Day, which plays classic hip-hop, spent the past 3 months at 1.2. Now they went up to a 1.4. And right at the bottom, you've got Adult Album Alternative KCSN from California State University Northridge hanging at a 0.7. 980 KFWB, which plays regional Mexican, they're down to a 0.7. KAIA, this is the LA affiliate of Air One, they're up to a 0.6. iHeartRadio talk station KEIB is at a 0.6, no change from them. And outside of that, there's a bunch of streams. But there is also KRLA, which is a conservative talker from Salem Media Group. They slipped to a 0.4. And they've been slipping for the last few months over there. And then 1020 KTNQ is a 0.3, and that's up from a 0.2. KDLD, this is 107.1. This is the simulcast of Jose 97.5. They stay steady at a 0.2. And then Spanish talk station KKLA has a 0.2. And at the very bottom, there's KWVE-FM, which is a religious station heard on 107.9 and now being heard in the Los Angeles area on 1110. They have a 0.1. Yeah, I'm actually on RadioOnline.com. I usually check them or Radio Insight for the ratings. Alright, and then our last market we'll look at is the Chicago market, which is led by classic rocker 97.1 The Drive WDRV, which is also heard in the northern suburbs on 96.9. They went up half a point from 5.3 to 5.8, taking the top spot in Chicago. Right ahead of US 99. This is the country station from Odyssey, WUSN. They're up from 4.6 to 5.0. Meanwhile, iHeartRadio's adult contemporary station 93.9 Light FM WLIT lost their market lead and fell to third, dropping from 5.4 to 4.8. Next is 94.7 WLS FM. This is the classic hits station from Cumulus. They're up nearly a point from 3.9 to 4.7. Putting them in fourth place. And then there's a tie for fifth with Odyssey's News Radio 780 and 105.9 WBBM AM and WCFS FM, slipping from a 4.8 to a 4.5, falling into a fifth place tie with Hubbard's 101.9 The Mix WTMX also at a 4.5, and that's up from 4.3 in May. In seventh place is 93 WXRT, which is a AAA format. They slipped down from 4.4 to 4.3, which puts them in seventh place. Tied for eighth is Nexstar's lone radio property, 720 WGN, up to a 4.0. Meanwhile, iHeartRadio's V103 WVAZ, which plays Urban AC, is down to a 4.0. They were at 4.3. So both stations tied for 8th place. And WGN is the Blackhawks and Northwestern Wildcats flagship. And then rounding out the top 10 is iHeartRadio's 103.5 KISS FM WKSE, jumping from 2.9 to to 3.5 to leap into the top 10. Just outside is Cubuena 105.1 WOJO from Univision Radio, slipping from 3.6 to 3.3, so they are down for the third straight month. Then low power Me TV Radio 87.7 WRME LD from locally based Weigel Broadcasting inches up to 3.1, putting them in a tie with Odyssey Sports Station and Cubs and Bulls flagship 670 The Score WSCR also at a 3.1. So both stations moved up from 3.0. Then you have Cumulus's Alternative Rocker 101 or Q101 WKQX. They slipped from 2.9 to 2.8. The local NPR station 91.5 WBEZ is down from 3.0 to 2.7. Next up is Odyssey's classic hip-hop station 104.3 Jams WBMX. They're up from a 2.1 to a 2.4. I also like 93.9 Light FM in Chicago. I mean, it's consistently one of Chicago's highest rated stations. So 104.3 Jams is tied in the ratings with 107.5 WGCI, both at a 2.4, with GCI actually losing half a point from May, and 104.3 Jams moving up just slightly. iHeartRadio's mainstream rocker, Rock 95.5 WCHI, is up from 2.0 to 2.3. And then you have EMF's 97.9 K-Love WCKL, up from a 1.9 to a 2.2. Truth be told, Robert, I really wish they left the Loop alone, because the Loop was a pretty damn good station. I love the Loop. Alright, 97.9 K-Love is tied with Throwback 100.3 WTBC, which plays primarily hits from the 90s and 2000s. They fell from a 2.5 to a 2.2. Meanwhile, Odyssey's top 40 station B96 WBBM FM holds steady at a 2.0. I mean, they are way behind Kiss FM as far as the top 40 audiences in Chicago goes. Spanish Broadcasting System's 107.9 La Ley WLEY FM drops from 2.3 to 1.9. Just ahead of WFMT Classico 98.7, which slips from 1.9 to 1.7. Now, this station is owned by Window to the World Communications, which also owns WTTV Channel 11, the local PBS station in Chicago. And then we have another tie at 1.4 with 890 WLS AM News Talker from Cumulus, and Amor 106.7 WPPN, which plays Spanish hits from Univision, both with a 1.4. In fact, WPPN fell from a 2.0 to a 1.4. In fact, they were at a 2.4 in April. Then they went to 2.0. Now they're down to 1.4. Next is the competitor for 107.5 GCI and 104.3 Jams for that matter. And that's Power 92 WPWX with a 1.3, and that's actually up from last month. And looking around, we have WVIV, which is Latino Mix 93.5. They're down from 1.2 to 1.0. WIIL 95 Will Rock at 95.1. This is from Alpha Media. It's an active rocker. Their signal goes into the northern Chicago suburbs and the southern Milwaukee suburbs. They finished with a 0.6, which is the same as May. R&B 106.3 WSRB. This is a sister station to Power 92. They're down from 0.6 to 0.5. Then you've got the River. I think that's 94. I'm trying to think. I think it's 96.3, the River. I don't know. But WERV is up to a 0.4. They're tied with iHeartRadio gospel station WGRB Inspiration 1390 at 0.4. Of course, WGRB was the old WGCI AM. And then also at 0.4 is Moody Bible Institute's flagship station WMBI FM at a 0.4, and that's up. Got a bunch of streams and a bunch of out-of-town stations. One station that is in town is Midway Broadcasting's WRLL AM 1450, which plays regional Mexican full-time. They remain steady at a 0.3. Of course, 1450 used to share time with ethnic station WCEV until that station went off the air in 2020. And that's pretty much it. Outside of WVON, which is an urban talk station on 1690, not registering in the June books. Alright, so that is a look at the ratings in the three largest radio markets in the country: New York, LA, and Chicago. We'll be back with a look at the next three major markets. We'll look at San Francisco, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston in our next edition of Radio Ratings. Till then, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell, get notified every time I go live. And a quick shout out to Hobbyman ZXE, also known as Robert. Thanks for all the insights, my brother. And I will go check out Anim's Randomness. Polar Bear Chad was in here, and Anna Rodriguez was in here. So big ups to all of you. And again, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and happy listening. Peace out.